I worked full-time with Ali Abdaal for 2.5 years as his head of YouTube. But almost exactly 1 year ago, I left Ali's team to start my own business, helping smaller educational YouTubers without millions of subscribers to build their business. And since I quit, I've used everything I learned from Ali about business and YouTube to help me generate over $250,000 in sales this year. So in this video, I want to share what all those most important lessons are that I learned from Ali and the fundamentals of online education businesses to help you build your business on YouTube to 6 figures and beyond. But I'm also going to share what I think are some bad lessons to take from Ali about YouTube and business. So some juicy hot takes for you there. But before we get to all of that, so that this video makes sense, I just want to give you some quick context to the business that I've been building this year. So I run a program, or accelerator is another word for it, helping educational YouTubers who are typically getting 1,000 views per video or more build their business to 6 figures or multi-6 figures. So all of these YouTubers have an area of expertise and they teach something to their audience, like learning how to paint or learning to play the guitar or the piano, or working as a live sound engineer, or trying to build a career as a data scientist. It can be anything which is a skill, or more importantly, where there's some kind of transformation involved. So I launched this program within about 2 months of leaving Ali's team, and we'll get into how I did that in a second. But if you want to learn more about it, this is not a plug. You can just click on the link in the description and just go to the landing page and see how everything works in a little bit more detail. Now, I started YouTube before working with Ali, and I've made a lot of YouTube videos myself, but I simply wouldn't have been able to run this program or build this business without having that job with Ali. So I'm extremely grateful for that. But now let's get into the main lessons and how I implemented them. So for this first one, I want to highlight something about Ali's journey, which is that he started his YouTube career back in 2017. And since then, in the past 8 years, he has posted 1 to 2 YouTube videos pretty much every single week, and sent 1 to 2 emails every single week to his email list. Now you can look on his channel, he's posted over 500 long form videos, and in the background, he's been sending all these emails as well. And with every single one, Ali has aimed to provide value to the audience. And what he's done over the course of that time is generated a huge amount of trust. Ali's brand is so powerful these days because people trust him. He has this huge level of trust on the platform and with his audience. And so when Ali shares some kind of offer, some kind of product for his audience to buy, they're not thinking, is this a scam? Or will this work? Or will it be any good? They're just thinking, will this be right for me? Now that is the power of a strong brand and building trust with your audience, is that you remove any question or doubt around the product quality and people are just evaluating whether it makes sense for them. Now, I understood this while I worked for Ali, and so while I was there, I was doing 2 things. I was making YouTube videos on this channel, but I was also sending a lot of emails and building my email newsletter. So I'd been kind of documenting the journey of working with Ali, and when I left my job, I had this email list of around 4,500 YouTubers. Now, all of them had been receiving value from me on a weekly basis, and I'd been trying to build trust with them as much as possible. So when I came to launch my program, there were lots of people who trusted me and wanted to work with me. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of that credibility was borrowed from Ali and a lot of that trust was borrowed from Ali, but people fundamentally trusted me as well, because that's why they ended up joining my program. So this first lesson is a bit more broad, it's a bit less tactical, but it's absolutely fundamental to building any business, but importantly, an online education business through YouTube, which is just build trust. Constantly provide value to your audience to build trust. You know that's what you should be doing, but it's a really important thing that lots of people don't do. But this now brings me to the second lesson. And to understand this, I want to tell you a little bit more about how I launched my program this year. So I mentioned I had this email list of 4,500 YouTubers, and I knew I wanted to work with them more closely. And so I had this idea for a program. Now to test this out, I sent an email to my list and I wrote a little PS at the bottom. And it said, I'm launching a 6-month group coaching program for educational YouTubers, and I'm looking for 10 to 20 educational YouTubers to help them build their business. If you'd like to be one of the first members, you'll get 50% off the final price. And if you're interested, then fill out this form here. And this email with just this little PS resulted in over 60 applications to the program. And off the back of that, 16 YouTubers ended up joining that first cohort. Now, fundamentally, I wouldn't have been able to launch this program this year without that email list. So I have a bit of an audience on YouTube here with 18,000 subscribers, and I have a bit of an audience on Twitter with 5,000 people there on X, but they're not as engaged. And if I posted something, I wouldn't know that it would land in people's inboxes like with an email. Now, I learned this lesson around how powerful email was while working with Ali, because over 50%, up to 60, 70% sometimes of Ali's revenue is generated through email, not through YouTube. So the YouTube videos act as a way to reach new people and to build lots of trust and to ultimately get people onto the email list, which is then where Ali does most of his revenue generating activities, like selling his courses and his programs and all this kind of stuff. And it turns out that most online education businesses operate this way as well. It's very common for over 50% of revenue to be generated directly through email versus directly through YouTube. And so the lesson here for YouTubers is always collect emails. Now, the way you do that is with valuable lead magnets in your videos, where you talk about useful things and then you promote them in your video, and someone can click on the link in the description and then enter their email to be sent the lead magnet. And if you do that well, you can build your list to thousands, if not tens of thousands of email subscribers. And you need a surprisingly small number of email subscribers to build a six-figure business. But if you do email well, it can be absolutely game-changing. Now, for the third lesson, I want to tell you about the first time I met Ali in person. So Ali was hosting an in-person event for students of his YouTube course, the Part-Time YouTuber Academy, which is amazing, by the way. And at that event in London, I was sitting at a table in the hall, and Ali came up to me to introduce himself and just talk to other students. And after we got chatting for a little bit, Ali said, "What do you think of the channel and my videos? Is there anything you'd like to see? How could we improve the videos? What would make it more interesting?" And because he knew that I watched his videos, he was trying to get feedback from me about how he could make his channel better. And so this lesson is all about understanding your audience. Ali relentlessly tries to understand his audience, the people that are actually watching his videos, reading his emails, and buying his products. Because the customers of these businesses, these online businesses, are actually real people. They're not just random numbers on a screen. They're real people with real problems and real goals and real challenges. And the more that you understand them, the better you can make your content, but also the better you can make your paid offers as well. So I try to embrace this in my business and try to relentlessly understand the people that I work with and educational YouTubers who aren't making six figures yet, and what problems they have, what they need, how they actually can hit their goals, and talk to them and understand them and listen to them. And the way that you do this is you actually interact with your audience and your customers. So you talk to them on one-to-one calls, you ask them questions about their journey and their challenges and their goals. You release audience surveys, you interact with them in the comments, in your community tab. And over time, you just understand the problems that your target customer has better and better. And that way you can make better content and make better offers. Now, the fourth lesson that I implemented in my business this year was the way that I launched my program. So I mentioned that I sent this email and I got people to fill out this application form, and that 15 YouTubers joined. Now, all of those YouTubers joined and paid to join the program before I'd actually built anything. So I didn't waste time making a course, making lots of materials, or figuring out how to deliver it too much before I'd actually got a bunch of YouTubers involved. Now, if I could go back, I probably would have actually got slightly fewer because I felt a bit overwhelmed at the time. But the principle that I was embodying here, which I learned from Ali, was this idea of sell, then build. So one mistake that so many YouTubers make and people trying to build online businesses is that they build courses, is that they build products, they build stuff before they know that anyone actually wants it. So I didn't make that mistake this year. I just didn't want to make anything that no one wanted. And Ali still embraces this in his business today. Earlier this year, he launched something called the 1K Challenge, where he was going to help his audience make their first $1,000 online. And he didn't know if it was going to work or how many people would be interested. He probably had a suspicion that it would work well, but ultimately he launched a waitlist, and lots of people joined the waitlist. And on the thank you page, once people had opted into the waitlist, they also collected some data on what problems people were having and what their goals were and what kind of support they would need. And so ultimately learned a lot about people who were signing up to the waitlist. And then he didn't waste time building out any course material until the thing had actually launched and a bunch of people had bought. Now, it was a lot of people, it was a very successful launch. And only then did Ali start getting into action and delivering the cohort material. So he didn't waste time building something before he knew that it was actually going to work. Now, this is particularly possible with cohorts and group coaching stuff. Obviously, if you're building a course, then you want people to get the course when they buy it. But the principle of selling them build and launching waitlists for stuff, because if you can't get someone to sign up for free, then you're not going to get someone to pay for it, is a complete hack for building a business. And it's based on the fundamental principle of business, which is just make useful things that people actually want. And it's like the motto of Y Combinator, which is make things people want. So sell then build, embrace an experimental mindset. Don't be afraid if stuff doesn't work. And if it does, then put in a lot of effort to deliver on it. Now, the next lesson relates to launching stuff. So Ali has this course, which I mentioned, the Part-Time YouTube Academy, and it used to be a live cohort-based course. And the last time that it was a live cohort, a few years ago, was this absolutely enormous launch. It kind of was a paradigm shifting launch that did almost $2 million in 30 days. And I think it blew Ali away at the time. And lots of the team, we were all kind of shocked about how well it had done. And one of the reasons it did so well, other than it being the last live cohort, was that at the time, Ali had read $100 Million by Alex Hormozi and spent a lot of time leveling up on sales and marketing and offers. And he spent so much more time designing the offer than he had done previously. And it had this incredible effect on the business. Now, the mistake that people make here typically is getting confused between offer and delivery. They're two different things, the offer and the delivery of that offer. So imagine a bottle of water in the supermarket that costs $1. And when you see that bottle of water on the shelf in the supermarket for $1, that is an offer. It's saying, hey, you can get this bottle of water for $1. Now, when I see that bottle of water on the shelf, I don't definitely know that it is not vodka or gin or some other clear liquid. I'm just trusting that it's water, which is going back to that trust point. But ultimately, the offer is the prospect of a bottle of water for $1. The delivery of that offer is me actually drinking and enjoying that water. That's the product, that's the actual delivery of it. And they're two different things. And I tried to embrace this in my business because I saw how impactful it was when you put a lot of effort into the offer. And so I tried to make the offer for my program as good as possible, making as much of a no-brainer as possible, and tried to figure out delivery once I'd found a great offer, not the other way around. Because the thing that people actually buy, that actually builds your business, is the offer in the first place. Now, of course, you need to have an amazing product, you need to have amazing delivery, but you can figure that out once you've found something that people actually want. So it's very closely related to the sell then build idea. But this idea of delivery takes me to the next lesson, which is that when I went full-time on my business this year, I knew that it would be easier or harder to hit my income goals of building a six-figure business with a different kind of business model. Namely that with a high ticket business where your offer is typically $1,000 plus, it would be a lot easier versus with a low ticket business where your offer is typically around the $300 or less price point and mid ticket is somewhere in between. It would be a lot easier to hit my income goals building a high ticket business. Because if you offer something that is $2,000, you only need 50 customers a year to hit your income goals, which is still a lot of customers, but it's a lot easier than offering something that is $100 and you need 1,000 customers. And finding 1,000 customers can be quite challenging. And generally, building a high ticket business is going to allow you to hit your income goals quicker than with a low ticket business. And high ticket stuff is typically one-to-one coaching, group coaching, maybe a done for you service. And low ticket stuff is typically online courses or digital products or templates and guides and things like that. Now, you absolutely can build a six-figure business with either. It's just that if your price point is lower, let's say $100, you need more traffic on YouTube, more views on YouTube, than if your price point is higher, let's say $2,000, then you need less views on YouTube because you just need fewer people to buy your offer. So it's pretty simple maths. And that's something that I learned a lot about while working with Ali, because the way that he made most of his money was with higher ticket products, things that cost $1,000 plus, $2,000 plus, and not with products that cost $50, $100 or $200. Now, if you have a massive audience like Ali, you can make a lot of money with lower ticket stuff that is $300 or less. But in general, if you don't have a massive audience, it's going to be a lot easier with high ticket. Now, the final good lesson that we're going to go through before we get to the bad ones is just that all of this stuff takes time. Ali's always been a big proponent for this stuff taking time. Now, I'm coming up on being in this online space almost 5 years, and I've been making videos on this channel for over 4 years. And what's happened this year is not really some kind of overnight success. It's been years of tinkering on the side of my job and making videos and writing emails and doing consulting and doing one-to-one stuff and learning all these lessons whilst I had a job and then implementing them all this year. It just takes a lot of time to learn how to do everything you need to do. And you can't expect to figure out all the skills you need to learn in just a matter of months and have some kind of drastic change in your business. It's just really challenging to do all this stuff. And so it just takes time. You need to keep going, you need to keep at it, you need to keep refining your offer and your business and listening to your audience and figuring out what exactly is going to make it work. I've been trying to make money online now for many years, and it's only this year that things have really come together. And I think it's just a result of years of kind of learning and experimenting and iterating. And I could definitely have done that faster if I was being more direct about it. But everyone takes their own route and journey. But now let's go to the juicy bad lessons that people take from Ali. So I think that, to be clear, most of Ali's advice that he shares in his videos and emails is very, very good. And as you can tell, I respect it a lot. But I think one of the things that people take from Ali when they look at him, one of the lessons that people take away, is that you can make videos on your YouTube channel about anything. So on Ali's channel, he makes videos about making money, about relationships, about health, about productivity, about business, just about so many different topics. But he's in a position where he can afford to do that and continue to build his business. He can explore all of his interests and make videos about everything. But when you're just getting started, assuming you want to build a business and make money from this thing, then trying to do that is just not a good approach, because you're not going to get anywhere if you just make videos about the things you want to talk about. You have to think about what value can you offer to the audience and to the marketplace, and to try to make videos about one niche, about one area where you can provide value and you can actually help the audience. Now, Ali's strategy overall has been a bit more refined than just making videos about anything. He, in the early days, made lots of videos about being a medical student and helping medical students get into university, and then it kind of expanded to studying advice, and then to productivity, and then to making money online, and to YouTube advice. And he's always had a kind of strategy around his main products. But because his audience is so big, and because he's so good at talking about all of these different topics as well, he can afford to make videos about lots of different stuff. And he also generates a lot of sponsorship revenue as well because the audience is so big. But for us small-time YouTubers, us little guys in the pond, we can't afford to do the same thing. We have to have a bit more of a legit strategy to position ourselves in the YouTube marketplace with a bit more intentionality to try and provide value in one specific area. And it is challenging to do that, but it's even harder to post lots of videos and not get anywhere. I think when a lot of YouTubers look at Ali's channel, they think they can just make a video about life lessons about productivity, but unfortunately that is not very helpful advice these days, especially when YouTube is even more competitive than it was 5 years ago when Ali's channel was blowing up during COVID. So that kind of wraps up the good lessons and the bad. If you want to see more videos about how to build a YouTube business on this channel, then hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.